This week it's Sarah and I, Launch Hangout for the Virgin Galactic Unity 22 mission. A great success. We had some issues with the audio and troubleshooting, but we've got this episode here. Catch the recap of everything that happened this weekend, the dawn of a new space age. Welcome, everybody, to Today in Space. We're going here live on Facebook. Thank you for everyone for being patient. I think we just posted a video for 45 seconds of me looking at a camera, not knowing I was on screen. But today we are going live for the Unity 22 mission, Virgin Galactic's first fully crewed mission into the edge of space, which is going to be part of our conversation today. Joining us today, I am your engineer for today, Alex Giaconos, podcast host as usual from the East Coast. With us today, we have our scientist, Sarah St. Peter. Thank you for joining us today.
Hey there.
She is off camera. We will be getting her a camera eventually. But just to get things up and running, it's been a while since we've done a live broadcast. So the actual Virgin Galactic broadcast starts at 10:30. So we figured we'd jump on here, share a little bit. We had some stuff prepped for a podcast episode. We figured, hey, let's go over that stuff now. And the big topic, obviously, today, Richard Branson, one of the billionaires here. I think he's a billionaire. Regardless, this is a billionaires space race at the moment. We've got Richard Branson today being the first of these billionaires to actually go or attempt to go to space. He's there. The 6 people who are going to be part of the crew, and the 2 pilots flying both the Unity 22 spacecraft. It's actually going to orbit. Yep. Okay. So he is a billionaire. 5.9 billion. So this is the beautiful thing about having someone else here on the podcast to pull up stuff, Google it, make sure we're not spreading misinformation. So thank you. Yes, Richard Branson. Obviously, we've got Jeff Bezos with Blue Origin. He recently just auctioned off a ticket for a flight on the first trip up on New Glenn, which is New Shepard, which is their rocket. That's going to be the Bezos brothers, Wally Funk, who is a pretty sweet person. She's a woman from the early Mercury 13 days. She was saying she has an FAA clearance for like a license to fly pretty much anything the FAA will license. So she's a regular pilot. She knows her stuff. Even back in the Mercury 13 days, she was outperforming all the men. And of course, given the times, didn't happen. But she was given this flight, the opportunity to go up to the edge of space. With Jeff Bezos, which is awesome. I don't think anyone else deserves that more.
Yeah, did you posted that video, right? Of her.
If I might not
add it in the.
Yeah, we'll have it in this week's episode. And in the description for every episode, we have links to all the things that we talk about, or at least we try to make sure that we do, and mention it if we don't. But I will add that in. It's a great video. Goes over, Wally talks about her history, what it's meant for her, and it's also kind of seeing Jeff Bezos in a human light, which, depending on if you want to actually see that, is up to you. But it was good to just, the internet makes us look at people so weird sometimes. So it's good to see Jeff Bezos happy, smiling with another human being and not controlling robotic arms at the Amazon lab. So
she's a really cool lady with a really inspiring story.
She is.
Hit me right in the feels.
We're going to add that for next time. The other billionaire, obviously, he's probably the person we talk about more than anybody else of the billionaires, is Elon Musk. Elon and the SpaceX army of engineers that have made reusable spaceflight possible. Gwynne Shotwell, the president and COO, who's made it so that all the glue that sticks together the whole company, so that all the engineers want to stay. The knowledge that everyone has been there is they want to work, they want to do these amazing things that they push crazy deadlines on them for, and also selling it to the industry. They have literally sold NASA on reigniting our ability to send NASA astronauts. And today, with this Virgin Galactic launch, this is a essentially fully citizen mission, other than the pilots who are trained to do this. This is when we all start having a chance to go to space. It's pretty crazy. If you have money, that's this is very true.
I don't know if I'd quite say everyone.
No, it's true. Let's talk about the math. That's a great point. So $28 million to auction off a seat on Jeff Bezos's rocket for SpaceX. Right now, There's the St. Jude's Inspiration 4 mission, right? So people actually applied to be a part of that. So that's an option that you wouldn't have to pay for it. Do we have a question coming in?
Yeah. No, Kristen, the launch did not start yet. It's going to go off at 10:30.
10:30. That's right. So we got another 10 minutes here.
Mhm.
And you know what? Let's switch over. I'm going to get set up here so that we have that in the background.
Thank you, Angela. Yes, 10:30.
Awesome. Yeah. Thank you, Angela, for sharing this with the folks out there. I really do appreciate it. What has this been like for you as someone who is maybe not as tapped into this as I am? What does this kind of a mission mean for you?
I mean, we haven't gotten fully into it yet, but for me, it was interesting to kind of learn about what the edge of space kind of meant when they say that we're going to the edge of space. I'm like, how far is that? So that was something interesting for me to know. But just the fact that we're getting to the place where citizens are going into space again, that's pretty exciting.
Yeah.
To me. I mean, other than a highly trained astronaut, I guess.
Right.
Yeah.
Being a part of the astronaut corps, which is a very, very select group of people.
Mhm.
Yeah, absolutely.
With all these requirements, like perfect vision, I think that's true.
Yeah, no, I'm
I
screwed.
can look that up.
So that brings up a great point about, this is something that I think a lot of the space communicators out there are talking about is this, what they're all going to space, but not really going to space. So let's break that down. So Blue Origin and Virgin Galactic are going to the edge of space. The Kaman Line is a point we put up at a certain altitude that basically says that internationally recognized as the edge of space, right? They've got to put a line on it at some point. And here it's defined as 100 kilometers or 54 nautical miles, 62 miles above the Earth, 330,000 feet. And there's a pretty interesting few graphics out there that show the difference. I mean, at that point, once you get up to 100 kilometers, you're passing the point where you might see some meteors. You're above where weather balloons are going to go, and obviously, you're way above Mount Everest and where commercial planes go. So you're looking at the mesosphere and the thermosphere of the atmosphere that you're entering. So extremely thin areas. It's right about the edge where auroras start to be created in the atmosphere. So that gives you kind of an idea. If auroras are happening, that means
Northern Lights. Aurora Borealis.
Radiation, electromagnetic radiation hitting the atmosphere, which means you're starting to have less protection, right? So that your vehicle has to be even more suited for both air and space. And that's the interesting thing about Unity 22 is they're using the VSS Eve, which is a plane that's built specifically to connect that launcher to the bottom. Here, let me pull that up here so we can take a look at this. So for the launcher, so Virgin Galactic's got a pretty good website. They've got everything set up. So when the launcher goes up, we've got essentially two pilots, right? They're going to be going up, flying this up. And they're doing this in unison with the people inside the actual spacecraft, Unity 22, which gets dropped from the middle here and then actually ignites its rocket engine and tilts itself up to go to the edge of space. So you can see just how complicated this is, right? This is how a lot of these things start up. They're extremely trained pilots that can adjust to the situation, all the little tiny things that may not be theoretically perfect. They're the ones making the adjustments on those ships to make this perform as it's supposed to. And this will eventually become something that's automated, right? That's always the dream, is like have a computer do it so it's safer, it knows all the different things. But this is so early that they need to figure it out first. So they'll take all that data from these flights and pack them together to make some kind of an automated system that will do that for you. So the other thing that's pretty cool is Spaceport America, which is in New Mexico. I remember seeing this when I first wanted to be an aerospace engineer. This was built, I think it's in 2006. So I was a junior in high school, just barely playing with the idea of becoming an aerospace engineer. And I remember at the time it was a big deal. There was, the space shuttle was still in full force. So there was still this idea that these plane-like ships were going to be able to go in and out. We'd have all these tiny ships going into space. Yes.
Mick says hi.
Hey, Mick. How are you, man? Sorry, I couldn't figure out that screen thing, but we'll figure it out for the future. The Scene Snobs which is a great network that we're happy to be a part of. I have just had a ton going on. We haven't fully gotten it together, but if you're into movies, if you're into horror and sci-fi and film production in general, Scene Snobs is the place for you. And it's obviously a network where you can see a whole bunch of independent podcasts that are on there. Mick's doing a great job of building a community there. And of course, we've had Mick on the podcast too. So yeah, thanks for joining us. I appreciate it.
About 4 minutes to go.
Yeah, I've got it hooked up here. So we've got it live here. We're just waiting for them to go. They're not starting to go.
I've been spoiled.
I know. SpaceX, it starts and it goes. Like it's it's true. It's true. I'm not sure.
The whole pre-game setup with all that. I'm interested to see what this looks like. Same. Do they have a similar setup to SpaceX's launches, or is it just a little bit more like the NASA footage used to be?
Right. I know. It's interesting to see how they all do it a little bit differently. You know, SpaceX has really taken the cake for how you launch a really good broadcast that people are really interested in, and they've visually got a bunch of cool stuff. So it'll be interesting to see what they do.
Angela says that it sounds like a great network. It is.
It is.
Check it out. So they're starting their feed at 10:30.
Mm-hmm. Huh. Stephen Colbert is hosting.
Oh, no way.
Astronaut Chris Hadfield, Canadian astronaut, will be there. There's a few other people too. So this is the first time that Virgin Galactic has done a global live stream.
Interesting.
Yeah. No, and it's interesting because all of these 3 billionaires, Elon, Richard Branson, and Jeff Bezos, they've been in this game almost like 20 years, the space game. It just shows you how, it's understated how long these people have been working on it. And in 2006, Spaceport America was built in New Mexico. It's funded by the government of New Mexico.
Interesting.
And it's supposed to be, an all-access port for people going to space. And again, this is part of when the promise of the space shuttle industry was, we're going to build this economy that everyone's going to do this. So they built this in 2006, and then in 2011, the shuttle goes down, and then there's not anything human spaceflight technology-wise ready. Mm-hmm. And so, Virgin Galactic was in this, trying to figure this out. Early on, they've had this is the 22nd test flight of Unity. So this is just this one spacecraft. They've had stumbles along the way, figuring out this technology and make sure that it's safe enough, because this will be used as a way for people to buy flights into space, commercial. Get it to the point where, like they did with Virgin Airlines, where they had commercial spaceflight. If there's anyone that's uniquely set up for the challenges of commercial spaceflight, it's Richard Branson, for sure. He's run that whole company. He sold it successfully. I mean, I remember flying Virgin Airlines back in the day. They had a really nice experience, and I totally expect that from them in this. So
that's wild.
Yeah.
Just imagining purchasing a ticket to go to space.
It's crazy, right?
Wild.
Now here's the question: how much would you actually pay to go to space?
I have no idea. I don't have, what was it, $23 billion or million or whatever.
$28 million.
$28 million
for Jeff Bezos' rocket to go into space.
That's
a lot.
Not even 30.
I think that's more than we were paying the Russians to send our own astronauts on the Soyuz system.
Gotcha.
Yeah, and that was to the International Space Station. Blue Origin rocket cannot go there right now, and so this is where this debate. There's a lot of vitriol, I guess that's the word, venom, going back and forth with the Blue Origin peeps, and we're just waiting for them. That's okay. We understand. We had technical difficulties too, but there's this weirdness online, which that should be an obvious statement. I shouldn't be saying that like that's a new thing, but there's people who are just getting in arguments about who's actually going to space, and that's a legitimate thing because the Kaman Line's just an altitude we chose. But regardless, it's still hard. It's still people's lives at stake, and this is human spaceflight. This is the same existential crisis we had with the space shuttle. So obviously we wish them the best of luck. They've definitely been training for a long time, and they're as prepared as they're going to be. And hopefully they won't launch if there's any weather constraints and any of that stuff. But yeah, I mean that at the end of the day is what's the most important. Is people's lives at stake.
Where are they launching out of?
They're launching out of New Mexico, Spaceport America.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so here we go.
Oh, boy.
Here we go. Make sure. I don't hear anything from that.
It's wild. It looks like so it goes up with the plane.
Mm-hmm.
Interesting.
Yeah, so the plane goes up, drops it, and then the plane. I remember it doing a backwards flip to get away, but
Wow.
I don't know if that's what they're still doing.
Angela says that she would pay, but she doesn't have Bezos or Branson's bank account.
Fair.
Yeah, me
Fair.
neither.
Yeah,
No
no,
way.
it's crazy. I mean, so what's the most expensive airline ticket that you would pay for if you're going to someplace awesome, like a once in a lifetime experience?
Ugh.
It's tough, right?
I don't know. I'm poor.
I know. I don't think I've ever spent more than $500 on an airline ticket, but I know people who have.
Yeah,
So, yeah, it's weird.
I could probably see myself saving a couple thousand, but beyond to go to space, but
Right.
beyond that,
Right.
you won't see me scraping up $1 billion.
No. I same here. I think, I think a few thousand probably makes sense.
Mhm.
But again, like, how does that work?
Just like anything, the longer it's in existence, the less it will cost, I guess. But
Mm-hmm. True.
we shall see.
Folks out there, if you have a price that you'd be willing to pay to go to space, let us know.
It's hard to conceptualize, honestly.
Yeah, and that's to show you how early this is as a concept.
If you would have told me, 10 years ago that people would be paying like $1,000 plus for a cell phone, I would have told you they're crazy.
Fair. Oh, that's really true.
So
yeah, the need was pretty evident by that point. So people were like, yeah, I'll pay for one every 2 years.
my Razor flip phone costs like 100 something.
I know, those flip phones were great too.
Yeah.
The only downside was like I liked the mechanical buttons of those old phones. Not to be dating ourselves here, but those were really nice. It just, if it could have just gone on the internet and showed a web page, it would have been the best thing ever.
Misty says that she can't even afford to travel this planet. She'll never be able to afford to visit space. I hear that.
Yeah.
I do.
Yeah.
I do.
I know. It is totally outside of most people's ability, but that's how the early planes work too. They started off as military applications.
Mhm.
They're used in the war, and which completely revolutionized warfare. Right? It was naval was everything. You had a great navy. You ruled the world. Planes came by, and the whole thing crumbled. So new things need to be created to adjust for it.
Before that, it
was horses and bow and arrows.
Bow and arrows.
Sure.
How are you going to travel on a bow and arrow?
Huh? No, yeah. That would be very tough. Yeah.
The earliest of rockets.
I'm getting beside myself here. Yeah. So hopefully the rich people will pay for this enough to develop the funding for it. And yeah, it's a selling game at this point to get these rich folks to pay for these launches. Or you have the other situation where you have something like the Dear Moon Project with Yusaku Maezawa, who is specifically bringing artists on board. He's paying for the whole mission, and then he's going to bring artists on board for, I think, the first Starship orbital, at least the first lunar orbital launch for SpaceX. So bring people along, just orbit the moon, come back, see Earth, the moon rise and Earth rise. So they can share that experience to everyone else and get people excited, just like those early Apollo missions did, which is a cool way to use all that money that you have, right?
That's fair.
Yeah, and then
That'd be pretty.
Yeah, that would be. I mean, think about how I think about all the time how much your thought process would change, like what you think about yourself, what you think about life, what you think about all these other things on your way up, as you're seeing it. And then when you get back, like that to me, that mental experience.
It's going to be the billionaire selfishness cure. Is that?
It could be. It could be
the spark that changes our environmentalism.
I mean, if there's any historical evidence after a lot of those, missions, especially, so Richard Nixon, right, created the Environmental Protection Agency after all the stuff that was happening in space. So if that's a historical evidence of like how even politically it can change the whole thing, that's this move. Like, why are we going into space? Like, if we've got all these problems, why would we fix the problems on Earth and before we go to space? And my latest debate with that is like, okay, I get that, but we've had all this time before we ever had the ability to go to space, and we still haven't fixed it. So is it an environment problem? Is it our thinking is stuck in limited resources, one planet?
Yeah.
And can expanding the possibilities of those solutions by seeing ourselves as this one tiny blue marble in the infinite vastness of space, that we're all in this together at the end of the day, and we have to protect this one place that we know that our life can survive, that could change the whole game. That could change even the solutions that we decide to take. So, yeah, still not live apparently.
I checked on it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, they're probably just having some issues. I can also check their Twitter feed is probably the place to get the most up-to-date. Folks, thanks for hanging in with us. Yes, at Virgin Galactic. Still just shows live. Doesn't look like we've got any major issues. Reddit is probably the next place, but I will not be able to actually do a podcast if I'm scrolling Reddit. So, there's also, who's a good, just to give a little promo here, just because I love the work that they're doing. NASA Spaceflight has a great stream, and they actually have sometimes robotic footage, robots actually taking the footage, tracking stuff that's launching. So I'm pretty sure that they've got something out there watching. So they have a really good setup, those guys.
Fly again. So in that regard, yes, if you consider the space plane to be part of the rocket, but yes, part of the engine design.
These guys are so great. They really, they're live like almost every day, whether it's something like this, Florida, California, wherever there's a launch, they're sending stuff out there. So yeah, they're just showing Spaceport America right now. So it's a chance, right?
Wow.
Right? Yeah, it's really, and apparently the drive-in, you're just looking straight on at it, and it looks wild.
So who is going up in this flight today?
So going up today, one of them is obviously Richard Branson in his classic.
That's not obvious.
Well, it is, because he does that with all his launches of his businesses, right? He had the balloon launch where almost died on that early on in the Virgin days. I think it was for Virgin Records. I think that was the early one. And then he's done this a few times. Does great for publicity. But so he'll be on there. The other thing that's really interesting is there's other employees of Virgin Galactic, leaders who are going on this mission as well. There's Beth Moses. She's the chief astronaut instructor at Virgin Galactic. She'll serve as the cabin lead and test director in space, overseeing the safe and efficient execution of the test flight objectives. Colin Burnett is the lead operations engineer at Virgin Galactic. Bennett will evaluate cabin equipment, procedures, and experience during both the boost phase and the weightless environment. So think about that, right? You've got people who these leaders are going in to see hands-on what this experience is going to be like in space, and how do they tailor the experience for that? What do they take away from this that then is going to add value for someone going in, spending that short amount of time in space, and then coming back in?
That's a good point.
How do they control something? Is something going to get into weightlessness and hit somebody in the face? Maybe not. It might not hurt them, but it might not be something you want to do, right? So do you tether everything? Things. First thoughts of stuff like that. There is also Sirisha Bandla. I hope I'm pronouncing your names right, but she is the president of government affairs and research operations at Virgin Galactic. Bandla will be evaluating the human-tended research experience using an experiment from the University of Florida that requires several handheld fixation tubes that will be activated at various points in the flight profile.
Interesting.
And then Sir Richard Branson, founder of Virgin Galactic.
Sir Richard.
Yes, he's been knighted. Branson will evaluate the private astronaut experience and will undergo the same training, preparation, and flight as Virgin Galactic's future astronauts. The company will use his observations from his flight training and spaceflight experience to enhance the journey for all future astronaut customers. It's pretty cool.
That's cool. So no random citizens on this guy.
There is, so I think, if I'm not mistaken, Sarisha. I got to learn how to pronounce her name. I apologize. She is, I believe, essentially, they are citizens. They're just employees.
Well, yeah.
Of the company. Right. So the opportunity,
like-
right. That's a good point. Right.
Like someone from outside.
Yeah. It's not some person they took off the street or they're like, hey, do you want to go to space? Yeah.
Right.
Fair. Yeah. The opportunity of working there gives her the opportunity to do
Right.
so. Now, she has been working at becoming an astronaut. That's why she found herself at Virgin Galactic. Because the path to becoming an astronaut is not simple, or
No.
there really isn't one straight path. And so there's a lot of people who have just started working in the industry who hope that one day that experience will then lead them to be a mission specialist on some mission and then go to space, that kind of stuff.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
I'm gonna check Twitter again to see how we're
Let's do that.
doing. I'm gonna pull up the live.
Feed. Oh, looks like we're good. Here we go. All right, folks. Here we go. Up. Stephen Colbert. Interesting looking building, huh?
Looks like a bug over this.
Oh boy.
Of my very own. And I will be using this model to get scientifically accurate play-by-play
Oh,
of
boy.
today's historic events, as well as doing this.
Can't believe we're at the point where comedians are talking
Hosting.
about
Space?
spaceflight.
Yeah.
Oh, for Pete's sake.
Yeah, it's wild. All right. So in the sake of this, that is a live feed there on the right. That's awesome.
Oh, okay, so
So they are going up into orbit. Oh, they have a little play-by-play down there. That's cool. Nice.
Next up, a man from the
That's all you give Kelly Girardi? Come on. She's famous. She's going to be one of those people who's an actual citizen who will be on the next flight of this Unity 20 or Unity 23 potentially. Hey, Chris Hadfield. One of my favorite astronauts for sure.
Actually got married in the spaceship that will be taking the crew up today, Veronica McGowan. So now I turn it over to Veronica, Chris, and
That's heck of a wedding.
today's historic flight.
Thank you. It's a pleasure to be here with you all, live from Spaceport America. It's a momentous day from Sir Richard Branson, a milestone for Virgin Galactic, and a historic event for the future of spaceflight.
That's cool.
Just 7 weeks ago,
Married
Virgin
up on a
Galactic completed the first
spaceflight.
human spaceflight from the great
Pretty
state of New Mexico. And today, our founder and his crew will become some of the very few people to have experienced space travel. Let's take a look at how they arrived to Spaceport America.
Look at that giant building. It's pretty cool.
They arrived on bikes.
Richard's just getting his bike.
Oh. Interesting.
Is that bothering you that he's riding in on his bicycle?
It's confusing at minimum.
It's a little confusing. Yeah. I mean, God bless the guy. He's as old as he is, walking, he's killing it.
He's late because he rode in on a bicycle.
That's when you're the billionaire of a space company. Everyone's just like, yeah,
That's
you're
why
waiting
their
for me.
launch was delayed. He rode in on a dang bicycle. Ooh,
Folks.
look at that hallway. That is a nice
Cool
hallway.
hallway, right? All right, so here's all the experience of going into flight. It's for all the extra money.
Oh my god. So cheesy.
A lot of stuff. It's gonna be cheesy, unfortunately. That is cool, though. To manifest, especially like pre-flight, it's a pretty long-standing tradition. Sarisha. Sarisha. Thank you.
Congratulations, Unity 22. You are officially registered for science.
Okay.
Oh, way to start off your journey at first on a bike and now on a spaceship.
She thinks it's funny too.
Taking off just moments ago. The Spaceflight system was towed out to the runway and elegantly swept to the skies on what is a beautiful morning here in the state of New Mexico. They're at approximately 30,000 feet in altitude and climbing as we speak. Our spaceflight system is comprised of 2 vehicles in a mated configuration. Our mothership Eve, named thoughtfully by Richard after his late mother Eve, and Spaceship Unity, named by the late Stephen Hawking as the vehicle that will unite the world through space. Once at the launch altitude of the
That's a good get right there.
Yeah, right.
So I guess the other thing that makes Kelly not a citizen is she is TikTok famous. So that access has given her access.
Yeah, still a citizen,
I mean,
yeah,
she's
she is
still been
famous.
training, yeah. I like her blouse. It's space related.
Oh, okay.
It's got planets and stars.
Jacket.
It's a jacket. Okay.
Thanks.
Thanks, Veronica. I am currently here at Spaceport America's hangar 4, where the ships usually reside, but as you just saw, they're on their way to space. Right behind me, I have the rocket motors used for launch. And to my left, a very important person, CEO of Galactic, Michael Colbaker. Michael, good to see you. It's great to hear, Kevin.
Very casual. It's a very casual CEO.
Kevin, this is a landmark moment for Virgin Galactic. It's a landmark moment for the new commercial space industry. And it certainly is a landmark moment for our founder, Sir Richard Branson.
The shape of the fuel tank with the rocket engine on there. It looks like
A CO2 tank.
a CO2 tank. I was thinking a bomb,
Oh.
but that's where
Wow.
mine went to first.
Oh.
It is not, but I mean,
Well.
well, if not used properly, it could. But
Yes.
yeah, that is cool that it's. Yeah, the scale of this is actually pretty interesting because of how massive all these other rockets are that are taking, humans into space. Especially like Falcon 9. Falcon 9 is a big rocket. Starship's even bigger. But
we're gonna send it back to you. Innovation and
Question.
yes,
Might want to turn it down.
sure.
What would be from an engineering perspective, what would be the reason you'd want to go with this like airplane guided version versus what we're used to as a rocket launch, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, kaboom?
There was a lot of discussion. So early on, the reason to build it was to make it cheaper and easier to go into space because the violent action of going from the ground into space. Saturn V, right? So the amount of power they needed to go into space to go to the moon was massive, just to lift all of that stuff, right? And so doing it with a plane and doing it basically a horizontal launch, you're already super high into the atmosphere, which means you're starting to get a little less heavy, right? A lot of the launch too is getting up and then going horizontal because orbit, like the ISS, is just falling. It's moving so fast that it's falling constantly. So with something like this, you need to get to a point where you're falling constantly. Look at those unibody, these early Virgin launches. So the idea was take a plane, you can lift that off, you can land this, which means then it's reusable to some point. So using kind of what the space shuttle used as a concept.
So there goes reusability as well?
Yes. Yeah, it's the only way they'll be able to make this affordable. And so, instead of let's say 2 pilots. They've basically got 2 pilots for each craft. So 2 for for Eve and 2 for Unity. So going back to the engineering perspective, less fuel, less weight. That's the overall structure. So for each launch, you're technically using less material and less power to get up
That
there.
makes sense.
Yeah.
So it could theoretically be more cost effective for the average citizen, and less of a less G's. You'd be pulling less G's, right?
You should be. Yeah.
So
it would be
safer
less
for maybe not people in peak health. Like
Right.
I was reading, you have to have a certain blood pressure in
Mm.
order to be a NASA astronaut. You need to
Mhm.
have a certain, I don't know. There's just a lot of like medical.
restrictions or
Restrictions or-
limits. And the part of that too is that their data set has been so strict from the beginning that they
Right.
would only send people in a certain amount of health, because having something go up there go wrong is obviously not good.
But so this might be a little bit safer, perhaps.
Potentially. Yeah. A wider spectrum of human beings with varying health can have an option to go into space.
Interesting.
Yeah.
That's cool.
Mm-hmm. It's a good question.
Nothing nice that to be building a spacecraft, I'd love to come with you.
Yeah. The journeys to get here is pretty amazing, man.
Truly inspirational, and right now all of that inspiration is up in the sky as the Virgin Galactic Spaceflight mission makes its way towards the launch point. Let's take a look at these onboard camera footages now and see what we've got here. We are already at
40,000 feet.
You can already see the incredible view and the sky starting to darken there. This is already
So that's
what most
yeah.
official airliners
It's like a
are
double.
So I'm sure all of our astronauts are taking in that view already and getting really excited and prepared for the mission.
Also exciting.
To connect live with Richard.
It's all really exciting to see like all the windows that are on board too, like adding to that experience, right?
Yeah.
I think it would just be a sense of the hard work and the vision.
Bioastronautics research.
And the magnitude of what it means for the next generation.
Still not.
Still, yeah, no,
Not
you
a
bring up a really good point that all these people have either a career or a social status, whether it's monetary or through the internet, that have given them this unique access to space.
Which is makes sense to start.
Yeah, absolutely.
I go it would be for everyday citizens to get this opportunity, because I think, like you said, the perspective that it brings, the adventure that it brings, But it makes sense people who have spent their entire careers, focused on this, would get the first opportunity.
Yeah, absolutely. Oh, that is their music. Okay. Just came out of nowhere. It's like, what?
It's surprising. Sounds like Game of Thrones.
It does. Ooh, F-35. Nice. 7,600 hours. Wow.
He's been flying for 37 years and is the first person to enter space for 3 different states.
Wow.
Florida.
He's walked for 6,700 hours in her
Florida.
flying career.
Texas.
And
No.
he's also had the privilege of
Florida's one of them. And now New Mexico.
and she just went very successful launch vehicle.
California, I think.
Piloting Spaceport America today, we have our chief pilot and astronaut, Dave Patappo. Dave's been with Virgin Galactic for over 25 years now and has been
He flew the Harrier? Jet, dang.
just incredible.
That's a engineering marvel.
I don't know any of
The
these.
Harrier is the one that can lift straight up.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
But he has more than 10,000 hours of log flight in a career
Wow, 10,000 hours of flight.
including you two, and of course, our very own
Wow.
Spaceship Unity. As you can see, our passengers today will be flown to space by some of the most
I love her earrings.
experienced pilots in
Those
the
are
world.
great.
Those are cool.
And in the cockpit of the Spaceship Unity today, there are 4 mission specialists.
Ooh, Under Armour is doing the in-flight suits.
Nice.
Woo!
Astronaut 001, what a title to have. Now, I don't know about you guys, but I'm excited to hear who gets the spot of 007 as well.
That'll be fun. That's the next one. That's awesome.
Seeing their families
Just to tie in here, folks, so this book here, it's really good insight. If you want to know more about Richard Branson and like the stuff he's gone through to build companies and from his perspective, also learned like his childhood and stuff like that. Highly recommend this. It's Richard Branson, Losing My Virginity. I survived, had fun, and made a fortune doing business my way. So it's a good one for sure. We'll have a link in this week's episode if you're just listening or you want to check out later. I have an affiliate link. So if you buy it through Amazon through that link, great. You give us a lot of money. So I appreciate it. Interesting. So NASA has determined 50 miles.
Oh
my God.
Oh, for Pete's sake.
Hello.
It would glitch at that point. Oh, gonna have snow cones in space? Don't lie to me. That's an animation. Say that it's an animation. That stuff bothers me.
Fair.
So that's an interesting point. So from an energy perspective, it's more economical, or it's more conservative, but they still have to develop it to get to be financially economical.
Ooh, look at that.
Yeah.
Shit, that's kind
So they get to get out. That's awesome.
Passengers experience space firsthand, hands-free. The ship has an incredible 17 windows, and passengers won't be able to resist being drawn towards the undeniable.
Damn.
This planet Earth looks right back at them in all her majesty. Whilst enjoying weightlessness and a life-changing view, the vehicle is preparing itself for re-entry into the Earth's atmosphere.
It's almost 300,000 feet.
Virgin Galactic Space System. Re-entry is arguably the most challenging aspect of space travel, as they usually been approached in two ways, with winged vehicles or with capsule spacecraft. The revolutionary aspect of Virgin Galactic feather technology is that it enables the vehicle to act like a winged vehicle when it is advantageous to be a winged vehicle, and then behave as a capsule when a capsule design gives you the advantage. On the way to space, the spaceship folds in half, with the wings moving upward to a 60-degree position as the pilots put the vehicle into an elegant backflip. This points the windows straight back towards Earth, offering passengers astounding and unobstructed views.
They've definitely taken a lot of attention to the experience, which I appreciate a lot.
Absolutely. Earth's atmosphere across the entire underside of the spaceship, and aerodynamically enabling it to reorient itself from any position.
So that's really cool. So the wings that have gone vertical, that's a similar thing like SpaceX does with the grid fins, controlling that spin. And then as soon as it hits the air, it goes right back in the plane. That is awesome.
Ensuring a thrilling yet comfortable ride for those on board, and landing on the same runway it took off on.
Ooh, that's nice too.
Extraordinary design.
Parked car.
Parked spaceship. Yeah. It's interesting too because like there's also a lot of sound issues too. Like in Florida, there's some times where there's pushback. Like, when do we actually launch this? Like, super loud. We don't want, rocket launches, noise pollution, and also like FAA restrictions, right? Of like, oh, if the launch doesn't go well, where's the blast radius? That's a lot of it's taken in with these ground launches. Where if you can get this take it into a plane, it's a lot smaller. If there is some reason for debris, it's a lot less. Interesting. Very interesting.
Yeah, I can imagine. And Kelly, now I know you've experienced zero G already in some parabolic flights. Your spaceflight will surely be an extension, right, of that zero G time. What are you most looking forward to in terms of conducting experiments in that environment?
Yeah, exactly. Like Veronica said, I've done a number of parabolic research flights here on Earth where the aircraft takes this roller coaster profile to simulate zero-G seconds at a time. But during the dedicated research mission with Virgin Galactic, I am most looking forward to that continuous, uninterrupted minutes worth of microgravity exposure as you do my experiments. It's just an unprecedented time. The next generation of researchers and scientists are going to be flying with their payloads, and I'm so excited for what's to come.
Yes, definitely.
That excites me so much. Like so that is a big challenge. So I think 0G, those parabolic flights, I think it's like $10,000 a flight right now. And again, like she was saying, like it's seconds of that. So, when you're performing experiments, that could obviously be very difficult. You could potentially lose the whole experiment and not get it, not start at the right time or whatever. So the only other option right now is the ISS, right?
Yeah.
For long term, but what's the middle ground?
Right.
So that's very exciting.
That is exciting.
Yeah, I've definitely been thinking about what experiments if I was going to go into space, what for a short period of time, what would I do? I think it's going to have to be something to do with 3D printing.
I was going to say,
Yeah.
it's going to be 3D printing.
Yeah. And what can we, how much time can we get in 0G? What are we going to test is the 3D printing environment or something like that? Because manufacturing in space and in 0G, there's a physics challenge of what is the difference with gravity and without. So if you could figure that out early, you can then scale that to manufacture in orbit and then build much heavier, sturdier, rugged spacecraft that you couldn't build on Earth because it would be impossible or super expensive to get it into orbit.
Right.
So that, if I had a mission, would be that.
Space manufacturing.
Float it up and just have it printing as it's floating around at 0G. Or something like that. Would be interesting. Yeah.
That'd be pretty good.
Mm-hmm.
I'm interested in health-related space research, but they're able to do a lot of that with the ISS right now, so I don't know.
Oh, shoot, live view.
I'm sure they're just getting incredibly excited.
Wow, look at that.
There we are again, just moments away.
There's a lot more room than I thought there would have been.
4 minutes and 20 seconds out now.
But keep that room. Don't pack us in like sardines when this becomes commercial, please. We don't need that.
Need knee room.
Knee room, float room,
All right, so I am hearing from our mission control center that we have almost 4 tracks in work now, so we just passed the 4-minute mark.
Sweet.
At this point, the pilot
Getting close.
ensuring the station is in its launch configuration. After going through the various -10 checks, just confirming all settings are back in their place and go for launch.
Awesome.
It's interesting they call this launch.
The point where Station Unity will isolate your air supply from Eve and prime the rocket motor.
Again, going back to things that will, as this new era starts, things we'll have to get used to or redefine and figure out the right way to say it. That expresses the right thing.
Yeah.
Something we're both passionate about.
Yeah.
Oh, shoot. Oculus.
These teams consist of experts across various departments and disciplines within the company, and they're verifying checks with the crew today every step of the way.
It's going 387 miles per hour right now.
Four checks are complete. You're roughly 3 minutes after the release at this point. It's getting really exciting.
Here we go, folks. If you got any questions, please feel free to throw them in the comments there. Got the chat up. Thanks everyone for joining. So again, going through that this Unity here, this is the stainless steel looking ship that will drop from Eve, which is carrying it right now, and then ignite that engine to bring them into space and get into that orientation where they get to view Earth. Yeah, it's not really obvious. Like when you see something launch, you see a rocket launch, whatever it is. There's so many people involved.
Yeah,
It's a village, it's a city, basically, of people. It's wild.
And things happen pretty quickly after the release. So the pilots are going to light the rocket motor and they're going to accelerate in level flight until they reach Mach 1, at which point they'll start what we call the gamma turn, where we turn directly up and head to space.
Big old
Here
smile.
we go. So exciting. All right. 50 seconds, folks. Countdown.
45 seconds.
Yeah.
Skin's all bumpy.
Those are called goosebumps.
Little goose bumpy.
Oh, dear goodness me.
Seconds, the Spaceship Unity pilots are arming the launch Kaman now.
All right. 20 seconds, folks.
20 seconds.
I'm so interested to see what this is going to look like. I can't even come up with a picture of what's going to happen next in my brain.
All right. 10
10,
seconds.
9, 8, 7, 6, 5,
4, 3, 2, 1.
Release, release, release.
Now we got release.
Quick release.
Okay.
Ignition.
It's igniting. Awesome. Okay.
There's Mach 1 trimming now.
All right. So, yep.
That's beautiful.
All right. There's that move. The gamma turn going up.
Trim complete. Unity is pointed directly up and heading to space. Things are looking great. We are 25 seconds into the burn now, approaching Mach 2.
So Mach 2, again, as far as
30
rocket
seconds,
launch,
Mach
is
2.
very minimal.
Everything's looking really good and stable.
And even fighter jets, you know, it
40 seconds.
probably won't pass up. Let's put it that way.
Mm.
Some jet turns you can reach
45
high Mach
seconds.
levels, and you've got to do that pilot technique to get oxygen into your brain.
50 seconds approaching Mach 3.
It's interesting to see the color of the tail change.
60 seconds and
Woo!
Wow.
We are headed to space.
Awesome.
And the passengers in the back have been cleared to unstrap. Our predicted apogee is 279,000 feet and climbing.
Cool.
The pilots are now unlocking the feather, and as soon as they do that, it's going to initiate a backflip for Spaceship Unity. This is normal. You want those windows pointed down towards the Earth to maximize that incredible view.
Yeah, it'd be interesting to see what that looks like from down.
So feathers
Earth,
coming
wow.
up now, and the pilots are also enabling the RCS, or reaction control
Come on,
system,
get that tracking.
which is what they use to control the attitude of the vehicle while we're outside the atmosphere.
All right. So this is crazy. So pretty cool to see, you know, the full burn is to get the momentum to go into space, get your trajectory going. Oh, look at that.
Sir Richard Branson.
Oh, he's going to talk during the 0G.
Oh, wow.
This
That's
is-
so cool.
Welcome to Space Unity 22.
Wow. Congratulations, dude.
Well done.
That is wild. This is the stuff of, man, dreams of just what the space shuttle era was promising. This is a whole nother era. I mean, we said it. It's real now. It's wild.
So this is actually pretty good. I mean, cameras recording things on board today.
Okay, so they'll get it after.
Capture his magical words and share them with the world.
Man,
We reached apogee 282.
700 miles an hour and going.
Remember today.
Okay.
Remember where
So
you
they've
are.
reached the top of the apogee. They're coming back down now.
Virgin Galactic, because today space is virgin territory.
Okay, folks, this is real.
For more than half a century since the world rejoiced in and was transformed by humans leaving planet Earth, Sir Richard Branson fulfills his long-held dream of a series.
I love that turn back in as those
Congratulations again, Richard.
tails guide it back in aerodynamically.
We should call in on becoming astronauts today, and welcome back to space to Dave and Beck.
Out there. Get back to their seats.
So now,
Oh, man. That's wild. Who wants to go, folks? Who wants to go to space?
I want to do a space part
Yeah,
with
heck yeah.
so we are on the re-entry portion of our
All right,
flight
belly
now.
first.
Mission sections are
Awesome.
their seats. Our training team has really hard on this portion
because
of
of the
very natural and intuitive.
because of the trajectory, they had some time as the gravity starts slowly coming back from their arc.
What's interesting is re-entry.
It's not as harsh of a change as the parabolic. You're floating and then all of a sudden you're back in the ground.
Shockwaves form on top of the cabin, which are audible to those inside. And for those of you on site watching on the ground, you should be able to hear a double sonic boom as station unity once again breaks the sound barrier.
Yeah, so going 1,800 miles per hour here. So as it hits that atmosphere, it's displacing that atmosphere.
Right.
So when you break the sound barrier, you're literally cutting through the air. That's trying to stop you.
It doesn't have a mind of its own. But
Yeah.
it's
True.
pushing back against
True.
you.
Yeah.
It's not a
It's like,
full
no, don't
at
do
the
it.
bridge.
Don't do it.
It is now subsonic.
Cool. They're coming back in. This is
5,000 feet in
to see something come back in. I mean, we haven't seen something like this since the space shuttle. Humans going into space and then flying back in on a runway. That 2011, it's a decade.
Pretty impressive.
Yeah.
Pretty impressive. It's also pretty cool that I'm just imagining from a commercial perspective that, like when you skydive or something to wear a GoPro on your head,
Yeah.
like you're going to have this plane following you, but you purchase the DVD of your space flight.
Like the ones you get from your roller coaster.
Yes,
Like,
yeah,
yeah,
exactly.
yeah.
So at this point, Spaceship Unity is a glider. So it's all about
Back to being a plane.
potential and kinetic energy. So if the pilots want to go faster, they point their nose down. And if they want to go slower, they bring their nose up.
Slowly ride that
And
air.
now here, the crew is listening to a special soundtrack for the glide. I don't know about you all, but I'm still feeling overwhelmed and excited about what we just witnessed.
Wow.
In particular, because I'll be having all of the feels right now. You can see him sending a congratulations.
Shaking feet.
And with him.
Okay, 338 miles per hour. Just under 33,000 feet.
So, Richard, you just
So still higher than commercial spacecraft, aircraft.
Is this birthday?
What was the
I
point?
was like, really?
So are these I almost want to call them planes, but kind of is. Is it designed to go somewhere further, like the moon or Mars or something like that, or no, not really?
No, because if I had to guess, they're expelling all the propellant just on that boost up. It would have to be a much bigger spacecraft because then it would have a lot more fuel. So I don't think the energy you'd be able to reach the moon or even the
the least
ISS.
amount of fuel, but
Right.
But
I mean, someday theoretically could
yeah.
it be? Yeah, potentially. It would all depend on how much fuel you could get on that spaceship, and
Right.
then But yeah, there was a while there where they were considering doing this kind of thing for all launches. So
because now I'm getting greedy. Talking about commercial space flight. I want to go to the moon. I want
Yeah.
to go to Mars.
tough to hear, but it's gonna be cool. I don't know if you heard earlier, but they recorded this. They're recording that live, so they'll share that whole thing in a nice produced way. So that'll be pretty cool. They look so excited. I mean, how can you not be? I'm down here. I'm just excited for them. Cool, banking in. Oh, awesome.
It's so wild to me how it's really like
Yeah.
it's so different from
Mhm.
anything I've seen. At least.
Right.
Like,
Right.
This looks like a straight up plane, which at least makes me even feel safer. I don't even know if it technically
Interesting.
is, but it just
Yeah.
like from experience.
Right.
Um,
A plane is something that they've sent people on. before.
right?
Yeah.
It
yeah.
feels different.
That's a really good point. I mean, and so this was there was a point where the military thought there would be these tiny planes that could go from some airport, some landing pad, fly up, go to another place, land, and then take off there and come back. It was the most natural progression of doing that.
Or even like I imagine taking something like this to end up at a not the ISS, but something like the ISS, some sort of
Right.
docking station
Hmm.
that you could then like the Grand Central Station of
Right.
okay, you're going to Mars.
Mm.
Here you go. You can go. Over here. It's
So
interesting.
it's interesting you say that. So the gateway that NASA's trying to build to make moon flights a lot easier, basically having an ISS at the moon so that you can dock. If they figure out a ship like this that can get there with that amount of energy, it's definitely possible. And yeah, so then that limits, like right now going to the moon, you have to go very fast and do a lot of extremely piloted moves just to get down to the surface safely, because you're going super fast, slowing down, and then going onto the surface. Where if you docked still to a station and then went down, it's big difference.
Mm-hmm.
Big difference. You could refuel there.
Yeah.
You could. Yep. Yeah. And that all still needs to get built.
Right.
You know. Yeah. But this kind of a thing pushes that progress. The success of this pushes progress tremendously because now it's real. Now people that didn't invest before or that weren't into it before or want to jump on the bandwagon of the press and all the other stuff, this becomes an opportunity to push those buttons. Get funding in those areas that haven't had enough funding or,
To commemorate this flight from New Mexico, we reached out to the ZF Pueblo, who gave us permission to use their sun symbol on their spaceship. This symbol is also part of the New Mexico state flag, and it's embedded with symbolic meaning. The number 4 is sacred to the ZF people, and the emblem represents the 4 directions, the 4 seasons, the 4 times of day, and the 4 phases of life. We are honored and proud to feature this perfectly balanced symbol on Spaceship Unity's tail cone, as we also celebrate our new home.
So the other thing about craft like this, same thing as like as the space shuttle. It's just a glider, so it's not like it's got an engine to turn on to like it's got to do another pass or something. So they're just kind of floating, circling the pad as they get lower and lower. It's cool. Yep, so 8,700 feet, 225 miles per hour. Yep.
Impressive.
Mm-hmm. Very comfortable 0.3 Mach.
We are
5,700 feet.
above the field now on final. About 10 feet above the runway. 300 feet.
Well, the other great thing is, pilots on board here flew the shuttle, so someone knows that, right? Oh man, yes. It's a beautiful looking landing. Way to go!
This minute before bringing the nose down.
That's huge.
We're already celebrating.
Yeah, you get 2 or 3 legs. That's good.
Nose gears touchdown.
Yeah, look at that nose gear. It's like a giant
And
brake pad.
Yeah.
Woo! Damn, that is awesome. So
That is a beautiful thing right there.
Yep, Unity 22 successful launch and landing, going to space, coming back down as a glider, being a multi. What's the way to say this? Multi. It's using both the air and space, so it's traveling different mediums.
Oh yeah.
And there is full
Amazing.
Woo!
That's huge.
coordination specialist on board from our operational home base, Spaceport America. A beautiful day of flight. What a moment.
Awesome.
Congratulations to everybody on board, and of course, everyone in Spaceship Unity who returned to space today. And of course, we also saw beautiful flying from our E crew, CJ, Kelly, and brilliant work by the chase pilots, Jamil and Patrick, all of who are still in the air right now. Great job to you all.
Dang. Huge congratulations. That's amazing. So we were going to close up this episode. We've been on. Thanks everyone for sticking on with us, dealing with the technical issues. We got this started. New setup, but we're definitely looking forward to do this more. Closing thoughts, Sarah. What can you what are you taking away from this?
Excited for the possibilities. Like I said, I've already designed the space station in my head. Got this all figured out. We'll see.
So we're going to the moon, essentially. What you're telling me.
Beyond.
Beyond.
I'm like, okay,
Yes.
how do you hook up light sail? How do you hook up?
Mhm.
That's where I'm thinking beyond.
So space flight is now more possible in your mind after something like this.
For everyday people.
Right.
Fingers crossed.
Yeah, fingers crossed. And so that is the thing I hope we all take away. I know I'm taking away from this. Is like, when that question of why should we go to space instead of fixing the problems we have here. Think about just in this one broadcast, this one thing happening, how much our minds have changed and opened up new possibilities that before this we didn't even see. That tiny little thing of watching this, not even being on that. Imagine what that does to humanity if we start having that become a regular thing. And we start considering all the things. We start considering human life when we're traveling into space and how difficult this is. Considering all the things that we thought were impossible that are now possible, of just seeing it happen once. If we can take that as the perspective and then why we should go to space, I think it's going to open us to a much wider breadth of solutions that we can use here on Earth to make life better here. And of course, hopefully we don't end up in some dystopian future like all those good sci-fi seem to have.
Star Trek.
Star Trek.
Live long and prosper, people.
That's right. All right, folks. Thank you for joining us today. This is Today in Space. I'm your engineer, Alex Rafanos. Your scientist, Sarah St. Peter. Thanks for joining us. Be well. Spread love. Spread science. We'll see you on the next episode of Today in Space.